I'm Marlene Turner, 34, a single mom who fought my way to managing a bank in Albuquerque. My daughter, 12, saved $13,200 for her dream computer, every cent scraped from chores and gifts. Then my own brother, my flesh and blood brother, snuck into our home and stole it all. When she confronted him, he didn't just lie. He slapped her. Hard. Right in front of me. I locked eyes with him and said, "Enjoy your last few days of peace." He sneered, spitting out, "It's just a bastard kid." He thought he could twist the truth, faking messages to cover his tracks. But I wasn't playing his game. A week later, his life collapsed, job gone, accounts frozen, cut off completely. And me, I was just getting started. Stick around to see how I made him pay for betraying my daughter. If families ever stabbed you in the back, smash that like button, subscribe, and share your story below. It keeps this channel alive. After my divorce, I was left with nothing but my toddler daughter and a mountain of debt. No one handed me a lifeline. I worked brutal night shifts, studied through exhaustion, and climbed the ranks to become a bank manager in Albuquerque. My daughter, now a grade schooler, was my reason to push forward. I taught her to save every dime, dream big, and rise above the odds. She was my heart, my purpose. But my brother, my flesh and blood brother, couldn't stomach it. He'd fling insults whenever we met, calling me a failed single mom who'd never make it. Worse, he'd mock my daughter, spitting "bastard kid" like a blade, knowing it hurt. My parents, dad and mom, ate it up. They doted on him, their perfect son, while dismissing my successes as flukes. To them, I was the daughter who chose hardship, and my daughter was just baggage. That Friday night, everything changed. My daughter rushed home from school, her face pale, hands trembling. She'd checked her savings box, a locked metal case holding $13,200. It was her dream fund, scraped together from birthday cash, odd jobs, and my budgeting lessons meant for a computer to fuel her digital art passion. But the box was gone. Her voice cracked as she said, "Mom, it's gone." My stomach churned. I knew she'd never misplace it. She was too careful, too much like me. We hurried to my laptop and pulled up the security camera footage from the living room. The blurry clip showed him, my brother, slipping through our front door that morning while we were out. He'd used a spare key I'd given him last year when I was away on a work trip and needed him to check on the house. He knew our routine, me at the bank, my daughter at school, making it easy to sneak in unnoticed. He moved fast, clutching her metal box under his arm, then vanished into the desert heat. My fingers shook as I replayed the footage, watching his betrayal unfold in seconds. I wanted to storm his apartment, confront him, make him feel the pain he caused. But I'd learned rushing in blindly gets you nowhere. My daughter stared at me, eyes wide with fear and confusion. "Why would he do this?" she whispered. I had no answer yet. Instead, I grabbed my phone and sent the video to my best friend, a family lawyer who'd been with me through every storm. If anyone could help us pin him down, it was her. She texted back instantly, promising to review the footage and dig into his past. I exhaled slowly, steadying myself for the fight ahead. This wasn't just about the money, it was about trust, family, and protecting my daughter. The next morning, I drove to my parents' house in Albuquerque. My daughter sat in the passenger seat and Janice, my best friend, was in the back. My heart pounded as I gripped the steering wheel. The dry desert air slipped through the cracked window, making the silence even heavier. We weren't going there for a family breakfast. We were going there to confront Brent, my brother, the one who stole $13,200 from my daughter's savings. I glanced at her, her small hands clenched tightly in her lap, eyes fixed on the dashboard. She was scared, but determined, and I would never let her down. We stepped into the familiar living room, the wooden floor creaking under our feet. Dad and Mom sat on the sofa sipping coffee while Brent lounged in an armchair, scrolling through his phone as if nothing had happened. I took a deep breath and went straight to the point. "Brent, where's my daughter's money? We saw you on camera, you took her savings box." He looked up, eyes narrowing, voice calm but fake sweet. "What are you talking about? I didn't take anything." His tone was dripping with false innocence. My daughter stepped forward, her voice trembling but steady. "I saw you, Brent. That's my money for my computer. Give it back." His face twisted, and before I could react, he slapped her across the face. The sharp smack echoed through the quiet room, and my blood boiled. I pulled my daughter behind me, my voice dropping cold as steel. "Enjoy your last peaceful days, Brent." He leaned back in his chair, smirking. "She's just a bastard kid. Mom and Dad will always take my side." The words hit me like a punch to the chest, but I didn't move. My father shot up, face red. "Marlene, you're overreacting. Brent would never steal. You're selfish, dragging your daughter into this mess." My mother nodded, lips pressed tight. "You always turn everything into a tragedy. Brent's just trying to get by." I froze. They had chosen him over the truth. Janice stepped forward, voice sharp and clear. "We have video evidence. He took the money. You can't just pretend it didn't happen." But my mother waved her hand dismissively, mumbling something about family loyalty. The argument exploded. I accused Brent of betrayal, of sneaking into the house with a spare key. He shouted back that he had just borrowed it and would pay it back someday. My father yelled at me to calm down, claiming I was destroying the family. My mother kept defending Brent, saying my daughter's savings were just kid money. It doesn't matter. My daughter clung to my arm, her cheek still red, tears shimmering in her eyes. I wanted to scream to make them see, but I knew it was pointless. They had chosen their side. Brent sat there, smug, convinced he'd won. Janice leaned close and whispered, "We'll handle this the right way." I nodded, my resolve hardening. This wasn't over. That evening, Janice called me, her voice tense with urgency. She'd been digging into Brent's life, and what she found was worse than I'd imagined. As a sales rep at a local car dealership in Albuquerque, he'd been dodging complaints for months. Customers accused him of falsifying contracts, pocketing deposits, and lying about vehicle conditions. One client even filed a fraud claim alleging Brent had scammed them out of thousands. Janice had pulled records from a contact at the dealership, and the evidence was damning. Brent was on thin ice, one step from being fired or worse, facing legal trouble. "This isn't just about your daughter's money," Janice said. "He's got a pattern. We need to act fast." I was still reeling from the confrontation at my parents' house. My daughter's red cheek burned into my memory. But Janice's call lit a fire in me. She'd also uncovered something else. Brent had sent my parents a text message claiming it was from my daughter. The message, forwarded to Janice by Mom, said she'd loaned Brent the $13,200 for an emergency and was fine with it. It was sent through some shady app, not her usual messaging service. My daughter's phone was right there on the kitchen counter. I grabbed it, my hand steady, despite the anger bubbling inside. I opened her messaging app, scrolled through her texts, and found nothing sent to Brent or my parents. Then I checked the number on the forwarded message. It didn't match her phone number, not even close. It was a fake, a clumsy attempt to cover his tracks. I showed the phone to my daughter, who was curled up on the couch, still shaken from the day. "Did you ever tell Brent he could take your money?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. She shook her head, eyes wide. "No, Mom. I'd never do that. It's mine." Her voice cracked, and I pulled her close, promising we'd fix this. I called Janice back, my mind racing. "The text is fake. The number's not hers." Janice didn't hesitate. "That's our leverage, Marlene. He's trying to manipulate everyone, your parents, you, even the situation. We can use this against him." She explained how the fake text could be traced through the app's records, potentially linking it to Brent's phone or account. It was a deliberate act of deception, not just a spur-of-the-moment lie. Janice laid out the next steps with the precision of someone who'd fought battles like this before. "We need to file a police report now," she said. "The video from your house, the fake text, and his history at the dealership, it's a solid case for theft and fraud. If we wait, he'll have time to spin more lies." I hesitated for a moment, thinking of my parents' blind loyalty to Brent. Part of me wanted to give them one last chance to see the truth, but I knew they'd chosen their side. My daughter's trust, her hard-earned savings, and her safety were worth more than their approval. I looked at her, her small frame hunched over, and felt a surge of resolve. Brent wasn't just stealing money, he was stealing her dreams, her sense of security. I wasn't going to let him get away with it. Janice and I spent the rest of the evening piecing together every detail. She cross-checked the text message's metadata, confirming it came from an app Brent had used before for work scams. She also reached out to her contact at the dealership, who revealed Brent had been dodging an internal investigation for weeks. His lies were unraveling, and I felt a flicker of hope. For the first time, I saw a path to justice, not just for my daughter, but for everyone Brent had hurt. I tucked her into bed that night, promising her we'd get her money back. She nodded, but her eyes still held that shadow of betrayal. I swore to myself I'd make this right, no matter what it took. The next day, Janice and I walked into the Albuquerque police station, my daughter trailing close behind. The air inside was cool, a stark contrast to the desert heat outside, but my nerves were on edge. We were there to file a report against Brent, my brother, for stealing $13,200 from my daughter's savings. Janice carried a folder stuffed with evidence: the security video showing Brent sneaking out of our house with the metal box, the fake text message he'd sent claiming my daughter had loaned him the money, and a detailed report of his shady history at the car dealership. Janice had worked late into the night, pulling records that showed Brent's pattern of fraud, falsified contracts, stolen deposits, and angry clients ready to testify. It was more than enough to make a case. We sat across from a detective, a no-nonsense woman with a notepad and a steady gaze. I explained how my daughter had saved every penny for her dream computer, how Brent had used a spare key to slip into our home, and how he'd tried to cover it with a forged text. Janice handed over the evidence, walking the detective through the mismatched phone number and Brent's work scams. The detective watched the video, her expression hardening as Brent's figure appeared on the screen, clutching the box. "This is solid," she said, jotting notes. "We'll summon him for questioning today. Theft, fraud, and possibly more, given his history." I felt a weight lift, but it was bittersweet, my own brother dragged into this mess by his own choices. Back home, I got a call from Mom. Her voice was sharp, accusing. "Marlene, how could you go to the police? You're tearing this family apart." Dad jumped in on speaker, his tone colder than I'd ever heard. "You're a troublemaker, always stirring up drama. Brent doesn't need this." I gripped the phone, my jaw tight. They hadn't even asked about my daughter, about the money she'd lost, or the slap she'd taken. They were blind to Brent's lies, choosing him over us again. I kept my voice steady. "This is about justice, not family loyalty. He stole from your granddaughter." Mom scoffed, and the call ended with a click. Their words stung, but I wasn't backing down. Later that evening, my phone buzzed with a text from Brent. "I'm sorry, Marlene," it read. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I'll pay her back, I swear." It was dripping with fake remorse, the kind of apology meant to dodge consequences. I showed it to Janice, who shook her head. "He's playing you," she said. "He knows he's cornered and thinks a few words will make it go away." She was right. Brent had always been a manipulator, twisting situations to save himself. I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the text to the detective, adding it to the pile of evidence. Janice nodded approvingly. Every move he makes just digs his hole deeper. The police moved fast. By the next day, they'd called Brent in for questioning. Janice got a tip from a contact at the station. Brent had shown up all charm and excuses, claiming it was a misunderstanding and that my daughter had given him the money. But the detective wasn't buying it. The video, the fake text, and his documented scams at work painted a clear picture. They were building a case not just for theft, but for a pattern of deceit. I felt a flicker of hope, but also a pang of guilt. This was my brother, someone I'd grown up with, now facing real consequences. Yet every time I looked at my daughter, her quiet strength and the shadow of betrayal in her eyes, I knew I was doing the right thing. I spent the evenings preparing my daughter for what might come next. She was scared, but resolute, asking questions about the police and what would happen to Brent. I answered as honestly as I could, shielding her from the worst, but making sure she knew her voice mattered. Janice was relentless, coordinating with the detective to ensure every piece of evidence was airtight. We were ready to see this through, no matter how messy it got. My parents' rejection hurt, but it only fueled my determination. Brent had crossed a line, and I wasn't letting him slip away. 1 week later, the trial began in an Albuquerque courtroom, the air heavy with tension. I sat beside my daughter, her small hand gripping mine, while Janice, sharp and composed, stood ready to guide us through the process. Brent sat across the room, his usual smirk gone, replaced by a nervous twitch. The judge, a stern woman with gray hair, called the case, and the prosecutor laid out the charges: theft for taking my daughter's $13,200 and assault for the slap he delivered during our confrontation. The evidence was airtight: security footage, a fake text message, and records of Brent's fraud at the car dealership. The prosecutor played the video for the court, showing Brent slipping out of our house with the metal box. My daughter squeezed my hand tighter, her breath catching as the memory resurfaced. Brent's lawyer tried to spin a story claiming he'd borrowed the money with permission, but the fake text message unraveled his defense. The mismatched phone number was undeniable proof of his deception. Janice had also submitted documents from the dealership showing Brent's history of scamming clients, fake contracts, stolen deposits, and complaints piling up. The judge didn't flinch. After a brief deliberation, she delivered the verdict: guilty on both counts. Brent was ordered to repay the full $13,200 plus fines. The courtroom felt quieter, the weight of justice settling over us. I looked at my daughter, her eyes bright with relief, and felt a knot in my chest loosen. But the consequences didn't stop there. The dealership, already investigating Brent, fired him within days of the verdict. His name had been dragged through the mud, and no one in Albuquerque's tight-knit business community would touch him. Worse, his bank accounts were frozen when creditors came calling debts he'd racked up through years of reckless spending and scams. He was left with nothing, his charm and lies no longer enough to save him. I didn't feel joy watching him fall, but I felt no pity either. He'd chosen to hurt my daughter, to betray us, and now he was paying the price. Back home, I got a call from Mom and Dad. Their voices were ice cold, dripping with accusation. "You're an ungrateful daughter," Mom said, her words cutting deep. "You've ruined Brent's life, torn this family apart." Dad piled on, his tone bitter. "We raised you better than this, Marlene. You're no daughter of ours." I stood in my kitchen, phone pressed to my ear, stunned but not surprised. They'd always chosen Brent, their golden boy, over the truth. I tried to explain about my daughter's savings, her dreams, the slap, but they wouldn't listen. "You're done to us," Mom said before hanging up. The silence that followed was deafening, but it hardened my resolve. I wasn't going to beg for their love. My daughter was my family now, and she was worth fighting for. I made the choice to cut them off. No more calls, no more visits, no more hoping they'd see me for who I was. It hurt, but it was freeing. My daughter and I were done living under their shadow, their favoritism, their refusal to face reality. Janice supported me, reminding me that family isn't defined by blood, but by who stands by you. We focused on rebuilding, helping my daughter start saving again, piece by piece, for her computer. She was stronger than I'd ever imagined, her determination shining through the pain. I promised her we'd move forward together no matter what. The months that followed were quiet but healing. I threw myself into work, my daughter into her art, and we built a routine that felt like ours. Brent's conviction was a closed chapter, but its scars lingered, not just for us, but for the family that had turned its back. I didn't know what Brent was doing, where he'd gone, or how he was surviving. I didn't care. My focus was on my daughter, on giving her the life she deserved. Janice checked in often, her steady presence a reminder that we weren't alone. We'd faced the worst and come out stronger. 1 year later, I ran into Mom at the supermarket in Albuquerque, her cart piled high with groceries. She froze when she saw me, her eyes darting away as if I were a stranger. I nodded politely but didn't stop to talk. There was nothing left to say. My daughter and I had walked away from that part of our lives, Mom, Dad, Brent, and we hadn't looked back. The betrayal, the accusations, the refusal to see the truth had built a wall too high to climb. We'd chosen to move forward to build something new in the dusty sprawl of this desert city, and I wasn't about to let the past pull us under again. My daughter, now 13, had grown in ways I couldn't have predicted. The theft of her $13,200 had shaken her, but it also lit a fire. She threw herself back into saving, picking up small jobs like dog walking and selling her digital art online. Her sketches, once simple doodles, now burst with color and emotion, each one a step toward her dream of becoming an artist. She'd set up a new savings box tucked safely in her room, and I watched her count every dollar with a focus that made me proud. She wasn't just rebuilding her fund for a computer, she was rebuilding her trust in herself. I made sure she knew I'd always have her back no matter what. Our life in Albuquerque settled into a rhythm that felt like freedom. I kept my job as a bank manager, working long hours but coming home to a house filled with my daughter's laughter and the hum of her tablet as she drew. We'd spend evenings together cooking simple meals or watching old movies, building memories that belonged only to us. Janice remained a constant, checking in with coffee dates and legal advice, her friendship a lifeline through the storm. She'd been there when we faced Brent's lies, when we stood in court, when my parents turned their backs. She reminded me that family isn't about blood, it's about who shows up, who fights for you, who stays. That year taught me a truth I'd never fully grasped before. Family isn't a title you're born into, it's a choice. A bond forged through loyalty and protection. My parents had chosen Brent, excusing his theft, his violence, his manipulation, because it was easier than facing the truth. They'd called me selfish, a troublemaker, an ungrateful daughter, but I'd done what was right. I'd fought for my daughter's justice, for her dreams, for our future. That fight cost me their love, but it gave me something stronger, a clarity about what matters. Public justice, standing up for what's right, outweighs the empty weight of family ties that only hold you back. I thought about Brent sometimes, not out of longing, but curiosity. I didn't know where he was, what he was doing, or if he'd learned anything from his fall. His conviction, his lost job, his frozen accounts. They were consequences of his own making. I felt no guilt, only a quiet resolve to keep him out of our lives. My daughter didn't ask about him or about her grandparents. She'd moved on, her heart set on her art, her future. I envied her resilience, but I was learning from it too. We were writing a new story, one where we defined our own worth. As the months passed, I saw my daughter blossom. She joined an art club at school, her confidence growing with every piece she shared. She'd show me her latest drawings, vibrant desert landscapes, bold portraits, and I'd marvel at her talent, her strength. We'd talk about her plans, about college, about a world beyond Albuquerque. I saved a little extra each month, tucking it away for her future, determined to give her every chance I never had. The pain of the past was still there, a faint scar, but it didn't define us. We were more than the betrayal, more than the loss. Standing in that supermarket watching Mom walk away, I felt no anger, only peace. I'd chosen my daughter, my truth, my path. The lesson was clear: justice and loyalty build a family worth keeping. Anything less is just a name. My daughter and I had each other, and that was enough. We'd face the worst and come out stronger, ready for whatever came next.